I'm trying to think of, well, I'll be as easily pleased, I guess. It's going to be disappointing. Well, I met Bruce, well, what happened was I was living in Killaloe, north, near Algonquin Park.
It's in his book, too.
And, yeah, I wrote about all this in my book. But,
Get it, it's at bookstores everywhere.
The short version is that I had gotten out of the music business. I was only 22 or 23. And I decided that I would go back to join this Back to the Land movement. It's 1969. I was there for a year. And I still own this place, and 100 acres, beautiful place. And then I woke up one day and I went, well, hold it, I can't be out of the music business. I have no money, I have nothing. I'm not going to be a farmer. So anyway, I ended up with the idea I'd start a record company, but I had to find an artist. So I moved back to Toronto. A friend of mine, Gene Martinek, who produced Bruce's first 10 albums, including Wondering Where the Lions Are, or Dancing Dragon Joseph has Wondering Where the Lions Are, including the first album. Gene had been in a band I managed called Kensington Market, and he wanted to pursue a career as a record producer. He not only produced Bruce, he produced Rough Trade for us. He had a big international hit that he produced with Edward Bear, if anybody can remember that. Anyway, Gene's a very accomplished, became a very accomplished producer. So I'm starting a record company. Gene heard about it. Gene called me and said, Finkelstein, I hear you're starting a record company. I'm talking to this artist named Bruce Cockburn. Do you know who he is? And I said, I've heard his name, but I don't know really. And he said, he's playing in town this weekend. He wants me to produce a record for him, but we've got nobody wants it. Or nobody's interested in talking to us anyway. They haven't made the record yet. So I went down to see Bruce. Thought he was great. So the three of us, at the same time, all did our I managed to make my first record for True North. The company was called True North. Gene got to produce his first record, and Bruce got to make his first record. And that's really how we met. There's a little subtext because I had met Bruce once before, but it was only like a backstage introduction. He was with a band called The Children in Ottawa. And The Children, he played with them only a short time. And they opened for The Loving Spoonful in Kingston and in Toronto. And I went to the show in Kingston, and it was great. And Zolyanowski from The Loving Spoonful was one of my high school friends. So it was kind of great. And I had met Bruce there, but that was only kind of like, oh, and this is Bruce Cockburn. I'm sure I left no impression on him, and I don't recall him leaving when I mean that. But anyway, that's...
But you also said that when you were negotiating the agreement with him...
Oh, yeah, okay, that part, okay. Well, yeah, this might be what Avi was saying, it's funny. So I went to see Bruce at Ryerson. He was playing in a club called the Pornographic Onion. So that's what it was called, and it was part of Ryerson University. Lots of people played there, Joni Mitchell. Again, this is early 1969 or mid-69. For sure it was 69 because only a few months later we made Bruce's first record, and that date is indelible in my mind. And so I invited Bruce to come to my house. I didn't have an office. I'd started this record company, but there was no company. It was like me. And I sat down with Bruce and I said, okay, I'd like to do something with you. And he said, well, the only way I will sign with you is if you guarantee me that I don't have to use any other musicians to record my album. Now, I'll tell you what's great about that is I had hardly any money. So it was kind of like, please throw me in the briar patch. You know, that story. It was like Bruce saying, I don't want you to spend any money, and I'm demanding that. So I went, well, let me think about it. Anyway, I did guarantee that, and Bruce's first album is entirely solo. There's actually a bass part on Thoughts on a Rainy Afternoon, which was something he decided to have afterwards. But yeah, so that's how that all happened. Anybody else thinking of anything?
Well, I just want to thank you for doing this, and it's a joy to be able to see his hands playing the guitar close like that for so much of the movie. And I really, it makes me very happy. I listened to my first Bruce Cockburn in 1971 as I was a student at Simon Fraser University. And that album just, really became my friend.
Would that be the second album, High Winds, White Sky, or the first
It
album?
was the first one and the second.
Yeah,
Both.
they're both.
Those were just friends that accompanied me through my life. And since that time, I've kind of drifted in and out because there's been too many albums for me to keep up with, and keep up with my own life at the same time. But I'm just happy to be here and to share that.
When we talked to people in the lineups, they had very similar stories to yours because they all could pinpoint the times in their life when they heard
Exactly.
different albums, and it brought them back memories from those times in their life.
Well, no matter what I've heard from him since, I always sort of go back to that early gentle
That's great.
lyricism, almost like Donovan stuff.
Yeah, well, it was one of the things when Joel approached me about, wanting to do something on Bruce, and originally we had the idea of doing the exhaustive
6 hour special.
All encompassing.
Yeah, 6 1-hours, the Ken Burns version, and maybe one day that'll still get done. I don't know that I want to do it, but
I hope it gets done.
and as Joel explained earlier, it didn't quite turn out the way we wanted. I mean, the film turned out to be a terrific film, I think. I don't
Just
want
a
to be
weird
too
evolution.
modest. No apologies for the film. I really, really like it. But the long, long version, we just couldn't get around to doing. But one of the things I thought about, and I discussed with Bruce after I met with Joel before we said yes, was that, Bruce, I don't want to sound, he's going to live probably all of us. He's a very healthy guy and stuff. But, he suffers from the same things that everybody does. His hands are getting older, and, he's 60. His birthday's next week. He's going to be 68. And like a professional pitcher, he's been, he practices sometimes 6 hours a day for the last 40 or 50 years. Is it 50 years or the last, whatever, something like that. And, after a while, it gets difficult. So one of the things I said was, boy, we don't have any of this really documented. I mean, there are some videos and there is the odd TV appearance. He doesn't do much TV because he doesn't feel that comfortable. There's a couple of earlier concert films. So I just thought, Bruce, we should really do this because, you don't know. And I don't want to be the one running around saying, boy, he can really play guitar, So hopefully there's a great document that shows, who Bruce is.
May I just make one other
Yeah,
comment?
sure.
The black and white stuff and the highway and the line in the middle of the road and so on, it gave me a little bit of almost vertigo. I was sensitive to that.
That's
wondered
his
if
fault.
I didn't feel, I had to look away. It didn't make me feel
Well,
comfortable.
we shot it, the reason we shot, that's Super 8 film, and the reason we shot it that way is because Super 8 film is evocative of everybody growing up and going on holidays, and so life on the road. And that was a stylistic choice that we made. I'm sorry it made you queasy.
I loved it.
Yeah. I did, that happened to me when I watched the Blair Witch Project, so.
I'm sorry about that, really. But
I was just going to say, it's funny, it's always just the opposite because I absolutely loved your choice.
Thank you.
I thought it was, I thought it was really quite a sweet spirit to the film. It added something. I also loved the totality of the music that you put in.
We've had a lot of people, and it's interesting you say that because at Whistler, a gentleman stood up and said the same thing. He got a lot of applause. One of the things that I always emphasize to people is that Bruce was involved with this, but he never once censored us. Never once censored something that Bernie wanted, never once censored something that I wanted. And I do remember there was one time we sent Bruce a rough cut to his home, and he watched it, and we got a two-word note back from him that said, "More music." So that was his only note.